Monday, October 3rd, 2016. Wasn't in class today, had a sub. So check your email for the lesson plans and your 005 formative results from last week. We're going to spend more time on the brain, and we have a great presentation from the substitute on a condition called ACC, because her daughter suffers from ACC, and you'll get a little more information on that. So as you can see, the plan is the ACC presentation, and the time for that is up to Mrs. DeFrang. And then after that, I encourage you to do the Quizlet Brain Rules recall. See how much you remember from last week. Number 2, number 1, just a reminder, they should be finished. It's fine if you have an occasional update or something you run across, but you shouldn't be spending a lot of time there anymore. And then if you need to, study Quizlet before the end. And she will share the presentation with you in class, and I've also shared it with you through your email, so it's there for you. So I'm back with you in class Tuesday, October 4th. I hopefully enjoyed the presentation from yesterday. So if you go to Classroom, we'll review everything that's been happening. So same no understands and do's from yesterday. Kind of give you a chance to talk to me about how the presentation went and what you learned. 01 and 02, again, reminder, have them finished. We're going to watch a nervous system video, and it should be a review, so I want you to make predictions about what you think they're going to tell you. Before you even watch the video, what do you think they're going to want a middle school kid to know? And see if you already know it. Maybe you know more, maybe you know less. And then we'll have a little bit of time to play Quizlet Live, which is a fun way to review. And that's the lesson. So Wednesday, October 5th, table talk. What does happy feel like? So after you discuss that for a few minutes, we pop back into our know, understand, and do's. And I'm going to give you a presentation I call Have You Lost Your Mind? And be sure to watch the brain science presentation that I have on YouTube channel under class videos if you missed the presentation. We'll also talk about different brains, look at some images there, and review the questions under assignment 001, making sure you know how a nerve pathway works, stimulus to response. And then we're at the point now where we need to start talking about assessment. So we'll talk about what should be on an assessment, what should we already know, and away we go. So here's where I present the Have You Lost Your Mind and introduce you to the nucleus accumbens, the pleasure center, and talk about how it's the largest at your age, while your prefrontal cortex or your filter is the smallest. So you're set up to be a pleasure seeker without making a lot of good judgments, which might reflect on why a lot of people find adolescence slightly obnoxious and annoying, yet kind of exciting. And then we take a look at brains, because we don't want to constantly think that, or we don't want to be stuck in the people-centered world and think that brains are human brains, because there are brains of all kinds out there. Here are some examples of mammals, animals kind of like us, and look at the similarities in with those. And here's a bunch more brains. And we talk about what brains can do and what components they have, and so you have a better understanding of brain as the control center of the nervous system. All right, Thursday, October 6th. Get out your sketch from yesterday. And we're going to talk more about what happens when a stimulus creates a response. In this case, what happens if you hit your thumb with a hammer? You know, how is it that your brain knows what's going on? What things does your brain not know what's going on? Why does the pain seem to come after a little delay? What are all the things that are going on? And from that, we come up with something like this diagram here, where we talk about regular long pathways in red versus reflexes, which are in pink. We get to talk about the neurons that are in red, the dendrites and the axons, the synapse, the chemicals or neurotransmitters involved. Your different types of your receptors, your sensory neurons, and then as well as your motor neurons, which cause muscles to move. And we want to make sure you're familiar with that pathway. And that's what we do all day today. All right, Friday, October 7th. Table talk. Discuss or explain what's happening in this image. Now, hopefully you recognize it from yesterday. After we get some time to discuss that, we are going to talk about how you are a born liar. Introduce you to something we call bias and the roles of your different hemispheres. And talk about the order of brain activity as an impulse travels through the brain, the direction of flow, and how that affects us as people. We'll watch some Sentis videos, maybe a couple of them if we get to them. And there's some brain animations. And then we'll end with finding your passion, or a great TED talk on Black, a yo-yo champion. All right, so here's a screen where I introduce you to bias. Have you look at Wikipedia and look at the cognitive bias section. There's over 100 different types of bias, or ways that our brain misinterprets or lies to us. And we talk about those and how it changes our view of the world. The black arrow shows the path of impulses up through the brain. And the main point here is that the base of our brain controls our basic body functions like breathing and heartbeat and blood pressure and the things that keep us alive. But after our brain processes that, it sends signals up to the emotional directed midbrain. And this is where a lot of simple animals have basic feelings of hunger or anger or cold, and they respond to those basic stimuli. And it's not until it gets to the final layer of our brain, that big cerebrum and the cerebral cortex and the frontal lobe, where we get the human processing going on, especially in humans out in front. That frontal lobe is where our judgment and behavior is. That's where we're found in our brain, our personality. And it turns out it's not developed until about the age of 25. So it sets up kind of if we think back to the pleasure center, the nucleus accumbens, we've got a battle going on. Our brain's processing emotion first, which probably isn't in our best interest. And then it's also being stimulated by pleasure and not always filtering everything that we're supposed to at your age. And that can make for a heck of a mess sometimes. So maybe that explains a little bit more about, helps you understand your personality a little bit more, and why at your age things can be a little bit of a challenge compared to when you get a little bit older. And then when it does get to the top level, these are reminding you that, of the cerebral processes that go on in your brain. Your left hemisphere is processing things in that left list, and your right side is processing things on that right list. And not to forget that you're only aware of about 10% of all the things going on in your brain, and there's really 90% going on unknown to you in the background. But that 10% is the you that you're used to talking to and knowing so well. So our brain structure really determines who we are as people and how we behave and what we're capable of. And there you go.